In today's Ask the Expert, we are diving into a local case that's really getting a lot of attention. Tony Navarrete was a state senator and rising star when he was arrested in August 2021 on charges of molesting two boys. He resigned within days of his arrest. The former Democratic lawmaker is charged with 7 felonies tied to alleged sexual misconduct with the two boys. Now, if convicted on all charges, 37-year-old Navarrete would be handed a minimum of 49 years in prison. Criminal defense attorney Hector Diaz joins me once again. Hector, how serious are these charges?
You know, these are some of the most serious charges under Arizona law. I mean, we're talking mandatory prison.
Pretty much life.
It's essentially your life. These are life-changing offenses if you're convicted. If you're released from prison, you have sex offender registration, you have lifetime probation. Your life will never be the same if he's convicted at a trial.
Okay, so last Friday, Navarrete had a settlement conference. Explain what a settlement conference is, because I don't think a lot of people know about that.
Yeah, for the viewers, you know, we're used to seeing maybe a trial where you have the judge on the bench in his robe, you have the jury there. This is very different. This is
very
often
casual.
Very informal. It is informal. There's still a bit of formality, but it's informal. Often the judge will come down, not wearing a robe. You'll sit down at a table. You have the prosecutor on one side, you'll have your attorney, and then the defendant. And it's the opportunity for the defendant to air out, you know, essentially their issues, why they want a better plea offer, why they believe they're innocent. And it's also for the prosecutor to educate the defendant on the facts that they have if they go to trial. And so, you know, it is, and really importantly, it's an opportunity for the defendant to kind of voice their concerns or issues without having those statements used against them later. And if anything that happens there can't be used later against the defendant when they're at trial.
What about the judge, though? Does he offer, you know, his suggestions of what the defendant could do?
Occasionally, you know, and obviously they want these hearings to be fair and they want them to be there for the benefit of the defendant, but they will give, you know, a defendant like Mr. Navarrete an example of, you know, this judge may, and again, this is an impartial judge that isn't the judge sitting over the trial. It's a different judge who may say, you know, I've had a case like yours, and here's the issues that the jury got hung up on, and they convicted this person. And it's often to give that defendant a bit of insight that maybe he hasn't gotten up to that point.
And the defendant could change his mind, possibly, even after this.
Right, right. There is a possibility that, you know, getting those two parties in a room like that, in that informal setting, it might shake something loose and then you get a settlement.
Okay. All right. So this trial was originally set for next Tuesday, but it was just delayed until October 3rd, as both sides told the judge that they are working on a plea agreement. So how common is a delay like this so close to the original trial date? You
know, it's not uncommon, especially given you had a settlement conference. There were probably things that were discussed. This might give, you know, Mr. Navarrete some time to consider his options, and maybe he has a little bit more reflection now. They likely went to the court and said, we just had a settlement conference. Judge, we want to give the defendant a couple more weeks to consider the plea that's on the table. Again, you know, it doesn't mean that the plea has somehow changed. This may just be, you know, the prosecutor saying, we're going to give more time and see if we can settle it.
All right. Hector, once again, thank you. You're not going anywhere, of course, because coming up at 4:30, we're going to be talking about some big national cases. First, we'll hear from former President Trump in an exclusive interview with NBC News. Then Hector will provide context on why Trump now doesn't want a speedy trial.